Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining on this auspicious day. Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Bol, Mataji.
Krishna
Thank,
Prabhuji.
thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So let's start with our prayers. Today is a very auspicious day of Mokshada Ekadashi, also the Gita Jayanti. So, with popular vote, we decided to take the class today as a overview of the Bhagavad Gita, like a quick summary study, quick, I can say 5,000 feet view going across the Gita. It's a very challenging task, but let us see. The idea, of course, is to sample from every chapter. Obviously, we cannot cover all the points. All the points, even from a flow perspective, would probably take us 2.5, 3 hours. We only have an hour. So let's see what we can do. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनच्छलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंश कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय उत्तले श्रीमती राधानाथ स्वामी नमने राधानाथ स्वामी नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे शेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य मुखम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्ण। So once again, a happy Gita Jayanti for those who joined just now. As mentioned in Amrit Prabha chat, there cannot be a better day to discuss the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, we should discuss every day, but today is the day, Mokshada Ekadashi. It's the appearance tithi of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, the message of the Bhagavad Gita is eternal. Time to time, Krishna comes and gives this message. Of course, the verses may not necessarily be exactly the same. Because in this case, in this event, where the Bhagavad Gita is spoken, it is a didactic conversation. It's a didactic book. Didactic means there's a conversation between two. And this kind of a format of a book for any topic is also very helpful for a person who is trying to study the subject. A didactic conversation is pretty useful. The Bhagavatam also is a didactic conversation. Of course, there are conversations within conversations within conversations. But of course, the main two conversations in Bhagavad are between Shukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And that conversation is being narrated between Suta Goswami and the sages. So this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna of the eternal message of truth has been inspiring countless seekers as well as advanced souls since thousands of years, and it continues to give solace, inspiration, guidance, amazement to all kinds of people, philosophers, seekers, uh, literary enthusiasts, Sanskrit students. So much knowledge which is condensed into just 700 shlokas. Excuse me. So we are so grateful that this wonderful spiritual conversation has been recorded by Vyasdev. The Bhagavad Gita is found in the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata itself, an epic of more than 100,000 verses. These 700 verses are embedded inside. The acharyas say that people who are very excited about war, politics, drama, they take to the Mahabharata. And they get excitement also, they get entertainment also, they also get some knowledge on dharma. But right when it comes to the most climactic moment in the Mahabharata war, the armies are facing each other and the war is just about to begin, and everybody who's interested in Mahabharata, is just waiting for the war to begin. Like in a boxing match, the boxers, they come into the ring, then they are standing in front of each other. Huh? The whole audience is thrilled, and the referee is between them, is just about to say start. So here in this battlefield, the conches are blown, the drums are blown, two armies are in front of each other. Arjuna asks Krishna to bring his chariot in the middle of the two armies so he can see who is eager to fight. And Krishna, in a smiling way, he leads him in the middle and he places his chariot right in front of Bhishma, Drona, and all these elders. So the Bhagavad Gita is placed in the Mahabharata at such a juncture that it will grab everybody's attention. And when everybody is attentive and most eager, the real highest message of the Gita is given to the listener. Even though he didn't particularly want a very philosophical discourse at that time, Krishna very cleverly packs the medicine into the sweet and gives it. And even within the Gita itself, the Acharyas explain, is structured in such a way, 666 chapters, 18 chapters, 700 shlokas. Even though the central theme of the Bhagavad Gita is about bhakti, devotion, surrender to the Lord, developing and living one's life based on a relationship of love as a part and parcel towards the whole, a life of love, dedication, service. Bhagavad Gita is broadly divided into three divisions of 666 chapters. The middle six chapters, the most precious part, which deals with Bhakti Yoga, is surrounded by two sides, like a sandwich, bread here, and all the tastiest material inside, the stuffing. So there's Bhakti in the center, there's Karma Yoga, first six chapters, and Jnana Yoga, last six chapters. And a very beautiful didactic way through a conversation, through question and answers, tough questions. Nowadays, if you see interviewers on many of these channels, they are no longer like what they were 20 years ago, very politely asking questions. They ask very pointed, direct questions, sometimes even questions which are provoking or probing. So Arjuna, who's in a very, very disturbed, desperate mood, who loses all composure at the beginning of the first chapter, at the moment when he's situated between the two armies, just about to begin the war, and he's just becomes totally disoriented. And whatever is happening on the battlefield, as all these episodes are developing, the Bhagavad Gita is set into the scene that Dhritarashtra is listening to the narration of what is happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. As Sanjay, his secretary, who seated in Hastinapur, is able to, by the blessings of Vyasa, visualize everything that is happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Sanjay is narrating the Bhagavad Gita live, live streaming, the first live streaming service, first podcast, the first live streaming of the first podcast of the conversation between Gita and between Krishna and Arjuna. So Gita is the first podcast. Service provider being Sanjay and one customer being Dhritarashtra. Of course, after that, we are all now customers. So in that particular setting, of course, we know the background of the Bhagavad Gita, so I do not intend to go into that. We do not have so much time. So Arjuna is so bewildered and he becomes very confused about what is his duty. And Krishna, who has so kindly agreed, his chariot driver, he tells Krishna, who is his very, very dear friend, he says, "Oh, Krishna, I cannot fight. Why should I fight?" And he gives a host of reasons that I will neither enjoy, I will get sinful reactions. And these are my relatives, these are my elders. How can I invoke my weapons? I do not see any good that will come out of this. Tells Arjuna that I will not fight. Of course, Dhritarashtra gets excited when he hears this because this is exactly what he wants. Good. Huh? That the Pandavas, I was hoping that they will not enter this fight. So now that Arjuna has given up his desire, the Pandavas will withdraw and my son can remain the king. Of course, that was not to happen. And Sanjay indicated that to Dhritarashtra that, please do not be so excited. Krishna is there next to Arjun. So Krishna's will come true in subtle ways. He hints. So this is broadly the first chapter. In the second chapter, which is actually the contents of the Gita summarized, which is essentially a summary study. In fact, the second chapter practically answers in summary all the questions that Arjuna raises. Arjuna talks about killing, Arjuna talks about sinful reactions, Arjuna talks about what will I gain. So all the doubts that Arjuna has raised, Krishna answers in this chapter. But Krishna doesn't begin answering Arjuna straight away. Arjuna still continues to rant on for some time, only to eventually come to the conclusion that no matter what logic I'm applying, I'm not able to overcome my grief. I'm still in a state of indecision. Finally, he surrenders to Krishna. Karpanya doshopahat swabhava prachami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. No longer I'm your friend, I'm your disciple. You please instruct me. Tell me what is the best thing for me to do. Yat shreyasyan nishitam bruhi. Until that time, Krishna is silent. Krishna is letting Arjuna rant and go around trying to share his so-called wisdom. And as soon as Arjuna surrenders, the first thing Krishna tells Arjuna is, you are a fool. You talk like a learned person, but actually you don't know. What is this you're talking about? Killing, dying. A person who's learned doesn't speak like this. And then Krishna starts with the most basic of basics by trying to make Arjuna understand that you are not the body, you are the soul. And the soul never dies. Soul cannot be cut, soul cannot be burned, cannot be dried. It is always transcendental, it is eternal. The material nature is ever changing and always dead. And the soul is ever living and never affected by matter. So that is the fundamental teaching. You're talking about killing. Who is killing whom? It is only all a change of the body. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara ta dehantara pratir dhiras tattana muyati. So do not lament, Arjuna, because there is no reason to lament. The soul never dies. Material energy always goes through transformation. So be fixed in the real understanding, develop spiritual knowledge. And because material nature is always going through transformation, learn to tolerate the changes that happen. Sometimes situations may be such that you may be disturbed. Sometimes situations will be such that it may be exciting and pleasurable for you. You have to learn to tolerate, understanding that this is the nature of the world around us. Always remain fixed in the understanding that the inner soul, your real self, and the real self in all these men around you is not going to be affected no matter what happens. And Arjuna, you're talking about sin. Huh? So I answered about death. There is no death in reality. And you're talking about sin. Huh? There is no sin in performing one's prescribed duty properly. You are a Kshatriya, it is your duty. In fact, if you don't fight, you will incur sin. Arjuna, what is this you are saying? In this war, if you win, you will enjoy the kingdom. If you die fighting a dharmic war, you will go to heaven. Huh? So it is your duty. But my advice to you, Arjuna, is this is not the highest reason to fight. Yes, there is no direct sin here, but if you just perform sakama karma with a desire to enjoy the results of your activities, you will get trapped in karma. So try to work without desire for the results. Do nishkama karma yoga, do buddhi yoga, which means detached work. If you perform your work as a duty without expectation of any rewards, then you will not be entangled in the reaction. Essentially, beautiful work performed without attachment or with equanimity, there is no sin. Why don't you try this out? In this endeavor, there is no loss. Even little bit progress you make, Arjuna, you will always have that progress for the rest of eternity. And only by following this path, you can actually be fixed in your consciousness. So, like that, Krishna starts glorifying. He says, actually, there is no sin. In fact, if you don't fight, there will be sin. What is this you're talking about? Sin, infamy? No. There is no better thing for you to do, whether you think from the perspective of material duty or from sin. Happiness for you is in fighting, but best is to fight without material attachment. So when Arjuna hears about this equanimity, perfect state of spiritual consciousness, he becomes excited and he asks Krishna, what kind of this Sthita Prajna that you have described? Please tell me about the qualities of this Sthita Prajna. How does he walk? How does he talk? स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्तस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाषेत किं आसीत व्रजेत. And very beautifully, Krishna spends 4 or 5 verses describing the status of a sthita prajna. Net, Krishna tells Arjuna that because a self-realized soul experiences a higher pleasure in the realization of his spiritual nature and his connection with the supreme truth, he's not excited about the ups and downs happening around him. That's why he has a vision of equanimity to the world around him. He's not disturbed. He sees everything equally, gold and stone, honor, dishonor. As he wants, he engages in the world, and whenever he thinks it is not necessary to engage, he can withdraw. This is the result of following Buddhi yoga properly, one can achieve such a perfect, wonderful consciousness. So, this is what you should aspire for. So, Arjuna is very excited. Huh? Actually, in one sense, he likes this idea because when he hears about Buddhi Yoga, huh, when he hears about this kind of a peace, equanimity that will be achieved through Buddhi Yoga, Arjuna actually thinks that Krishna is supporting that he should not fight because not fighting means peace, right? How can there be peace in fighting? He doesn't understand Krishna is talking about a higher level of peace, a kind of peace in a spiritual realization which you can have in the middle of the battlefield also. But Arjuna hasn't quite realized that yet. At the end of the chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna, fight. Arjuna becomes confused. Are, I wanted peace. You said Buddhi Yoga. You said peace. You're asking me to fight. So what is better? In the third chapter, Karma Yoga, Arjuna is asking Krishna. If you think Buddhi Yoga is better using intelligence, so if I'm situated in my intelligence, why are you asking me to fight? So Krishna tells Arjuna, you're not quite understood. There is a path of withdrawing from action altogether, and there is a path of doing action with detachment. Huh? My recommendation to you is please act without detachment. Sorry, without attachment. Act with detachment. Because that is what will lead you to a higher situation. If a person prematurely withdraws from action when he is still influenced by the modes of nature and he pretends as if he is renounced and not interested in material life, that kind of a situation actually only create disturbance. Because in his mind, he will still continue to think about material nature. So the way to elevate for a person who's still the modes is to work according to his nature, according to his duties based on his nature. But don't work in a sakama way. By sakam karma, by following the path of karma kanda, yes, we'll get all material necessities fulfilled. By doing yajna, by performing your duties, all that way you can get material facility, but you will remain trapped. Yes, follow the cycle of yajna, but remain detached. Even those who are very advanced in consciousness, even those who are perfected souls, and they have no need to do any work, even then they continue to perform the work because they want to set the right example. Haven't you heard about Maharaj Janaka? Even though being a perfected soul, continued to work just to set the right example. So it doesn't matter whether you are a sadhaka or a siddha. It is better to continue to perform work without attachment. Because when you perform work without attachments, you will get purified. Slowly of the lower tendencies, of the lower modes of nature, you will elevate. You will elevate in your detachment and you will elevate in your knowledge. If you simply perform sakam karma, then your progress will not be so nice in spiritual life. And please understand, Arjuna, one should continue to work with knowledge and detachment and remain fixed. Arjuna says, I understand Krishna, but isn't it true that we want to, follow all our duties, work with detachment, all this is, I understand, but sometimes even though we want to do the right thing, isn't it that we end up doing something wrong? What is it that causes us to deviate from what is actually right? And Krishna gives a small subclass to Arjuna by telling him that Arjuna, it is lust, it is intense material attachment, huh, which causes a person to perform sinful activities. So one must be very careful. If one allows one's mind to run here and there and contemplate on the object of the senses, then it is going to be very difficult. With spiritual knowledge, One must purify one's intelligence and with the higher intelligence control the senses. Only when one regulates the senses and makes the mind steady by deliberate spiritual intelligence, then one can conquer lust. And this is very important, Arjuna, because it is not possible to follow the process I described earlier unless a person makes a deliberate attempt to control his mind and senses by fortified spiritual intelligence, achieved through association, study, japa, etc., etc. Of course, Krishna doesn't mention this here. This is additional commentary. So 3 chapters are over, and the hope is that Arjuna must have understood by now. So essentially, up to 3rd chapter, Krishna tells work with detachment, and make sure your detachment will also increase when you develop knowledge. So in the 4th chapter, which is Jnana Yoga, Krishna starts by explaining to Arjuna, because now he wants to speak about transcendental knowledge, because transcendental knowledge helps the development of detachment, and transcendental knowledge is the means by which buddhi will become fixed. Krishna already spoke to him about this knowledge at the end of the 3rd chapter. He says, if you want to conquer lust, you must have a fortified spiritual intelligence. So Krishna now in the chapter 4, he starts speaking about transcendental. So Krishna starts by telling Arjuna, I'm going to explain to you about this knowledge. Long back I had given this knowledge to Surya Dev. Arjuna is like, hey, what is this? We both are almost the same age. Surya Dev is from what time? What is this that you are saying? Who are you? How am I to understand that you gave this knowledge to? So this is the point in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna, because he is going into knowledge, he has spoken about the soul, briefly about the 3 modes. Now he is establishing his identity as the Supreme Person. So he starts by explaining to Arjuna that, yeah, both I and you have spent many, many lives. I remember all of them. You don't remember. Why? I am always transcendental. Ajopi sannavvyatma bhutanam ishvaropi san. I am the Lord of all living entities. I don't become born based on my karma. In fact, I never change my bodies. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvatah. If somebody can understand the divine nature of my birth, appearance, my transcendental body and activities, that itself is so glorious that he can transcend material nature just by understanding that. It's like, wow. I thought, we are good friends, and suddenly, you are declaring your position as the Lord of all. So, Krishna gives various aspects of knowledge in this chapter. We are not going to go in through all the details, but Krishna essentially gives the knowledge about himself. He gives knowledge about the devatas, gives knowledge about different kinds of sacrifices. He speaks about sacrifices for the devatas, for Brahman, for sense control, and how performance of yajna is so important. Of course, even before he goes there, he already has established his position. In the process of establishing his position, he also tells Arjuna the very famous verses. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tada. I appear again and again in my transcendental form. And then he explains that how it is so important. This knowledge is so important because when a person performs his activity with the proper knowledge, then it becomes like a yajna, according to the system of the scriptures. And what is the system of the scriptures? Understand your nature according to Varnashram, act according to the duties, those duties for a higher cause. And then he explains the system of yajna. And he says that you should understand this process by which one can actually understand me and transcend material nature. And Arjuna, if you want to properly understand, transcend material nature, make sure you approach a spiritual master. Not just your best-selling author or not the famous film star whom you want to make your guru. I'm talking about a tattva darshi person, he who has seen the truth. Only he can guide you perfectly. Go and take shelter of him, surrender to him, render service to him, learn from him with great submissiveness. He will instruct you because he has seen the truth. Once you get this knowledge by rendering service and listening to the pure devotee spiritual master, you will be free from all bewilderment. You will develop the pure vision. You will be free from all sins. This knowledge is so powerful. It can take you, it's like a boat which can take you across the ocean of material existence. So develop this spiritual knowledge, have this sword of knowledge, cut off all your illusion, rise up and fight. And Arjuna is again, again he's telling me to fight. I am hoping, sometimes like, as devotees, sometimes we want one answer from the Guru. And we keep asking questions again and again and again to get that answer out from the Guru's mouth. All we want is Guru to sanction what we want. But the real Guru is not just interested in materially pleasing his disciple to get some donation. Krishna and Guru are the real well-wishers of the Jiva. They will keep hammering. Guru means heavy. And sometimes the Guru will hammer and hammer and hammer, will not give in. So then we come to the 5th chapter. Again at the beginning of the 5th chapter, what is better, Krishna? Again, can you tell me very, very clearly? I'm still not so sure whether I understood what you said. Renunciation or acting with devotion? Tell me one. Don't confuse me. Nishchitam. Tell me one. Krishna tells Arjuna, see Arjuna, I already told you. Both are good, but continue to work in the spirit of renunciation is better. I already told you, right? Premature renunciation will only cause problem in your life. The right path is Nishkama Karma. How are you able to simply just give up work just like that? You think you are a Kshatriya? You think you can just walk away from the battlefield and be happy? Your nature is to fight. You will be so disturbed if you simply run away from the battlefield. So one must elevate himself through the performance of what I described earlier as Buddhi Yoga, which is essentially working without attachment. And higher than working without attachment is to work for, dedicate the fruits of your activities for the Supreme. Then you will be very rapidly purified. This is higher. This is the real yoga working for me, because that is how you connect your actions in devotion to me. That's the first step. You mature from karma to sakam karma yoga to nishkama karma yoga. Yoga means you connect it to me. How do you connect it to me? By offering the fruits of that to you. You don't be the enjoyer. You want peace? You said you want peace. No, you will not get peace simply by not fighting. If you run away from the battlefield or go away by not fighting, your mind is going to be very disturbed. You're not going to find peace like that. You think, if I abandon fighting, I'll be peaceful, but that will not work for you, Arjuna. Take it from me. You want real peace inside? I will tell you the real peace formula. The real peace formula is to work for me without attachment, offering the fruits of your activities to me, always understanding that the real enjoyer, the real controller, the real Lord, the real well-wisher of living entities is me. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suradas sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. That is the way for peace. So peace for you, you're thinking you'll be so disturbed. You think that you will get peace by not fighting? No. It will mess up your life. Don't do that. Your real peace lies in continuing to perform your duty with detachment by offering the fruits to me and understanding that ultimately I am the Lord, Master, Enjoyer, and Well-wisher of everyone. So by focusing on the Supreme, you will achieve liberation. You will gradually transcend the modes and come to the platform of Brahman. But eventually you will be, as you come higher and higher, eventually sense enjoyment, which is actually cause of distress. People think sense enjoyment is happiness, but actually sense enjoyment is a cause of distress. So now you just tolerate it. Eventually you will realize through a higher taste that all this sense enjoyment, all this desire for material prosperity and material achievements, that but just a source of disturbance. You will come to the Brahma Bhuta stage. You will learn, taste the experience of the divine in your heart. That experience, when you attain, nobody can take that experience away from you. So work towards that. So work, detachment, knowledge in a renounced way. Renounce means renounce the Sophia. And then Krishna starts to explain to Arjuna that if you want to develop yourself in knowledge and detachment, what you can do, there's one way to do. Either you can cultivate jnana through studying and other means, or you can take to a process of meditation. So in the 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga, Krishna explains to Arjuna about the process of meditation. So, of course, a lot of details are given here. Don't have time. So we are going to go through this very quickly. Essentially, in this chapter, Krishna explains to Arjuna the process of Ashtanga Yoga and go to the forest, sit like this, full brahmacharya, cut away from society, sit on deer skin, control your breath and this and that and meditate and all that. Krishna hears all this, we become psyched out. What is this? Krishna, you are, what is this? What kind of method are you telling me? Huh? The process that you are telling me is actually, it seems to be so difficult. I am so powerful. I may even one day be able to control the raging wind, but to control the mind the way you are telling me, it's practically impossible. Arjuna is saying this, such a very highly qualified, pure soul. This is very difficult. Because the mind is so fickle, the mind is so chanchal. Pramati balavad dhridam. Pramati, it is mad. It is not only mad, like a mad monkey. Huh? A monkey is anyway fickle. The mind is like a monkey, but it's like a drunk monkey. A drunk monkey is even more fickle. This is drunk. Huh? Pramati, plus he is very strong. And on top of everything, he is extremely stubborn. Dhridam. Stubborn, crazy, powerful, fickle mind. Control. So Krishna says, yeah, Arjuna, you wanted to know, so I told you that this way also exists. But yes, it is truly very difficult, but it's not impossible. If one continues to practice with detachment, abhyasena, vairagyena cha guhyati. It is possible. It's not impossible. I'm not giving an impossible path. But yes, even in Dwapara, it is very, very difficult and it is not for you. I agree. So if Krishna is telling it is not for Dwapar, what to speak of Kali? Kali Yuga, this show of 15-20 minute meditation is good for posting pictures on Instagram and, getting some popularity by showing off spirituality, but one doesn't get very far in spiritual realization. And then Arjuna gets a very interesting question in his mind. Krishna, this process that you have described is very interesting and seems very exciting, but it seems also very difficult that a person can start this process and remain fixed on it for his full life. Wouldn't it be that many of those who start try to become a yogi? Because you have been telling me again and again, become a yogi, become a yogi, become a yogi. Isn't it true that some people start and then are unable to continue? They give up the process at one time, either because of material attachments or whatever reason, weakness. So, what happens to such an unsuccessful yogi? Oh, Krishna. You know everything. You told me you are God. So, you know the answer. You can you tell me. And Krishna tells Arjuna, he says, there is no need to worry for a person who takes to the path of yoga. Never ever there will be misfortune for a person who has begun the process of yoga. Nahi kalyana krita kaschit durgatim tata gachati. There is no durgati. Even if he gives up the process of yoga, if he has made little advancement, he will go to the heavenly planets. And later he'll come back and become born in a family of rich, pious people. If he has made significant progress and then fallen down, then he becomes born in the family of yogis, where both the parents are also very active, enthusiastic spiritualists. That kind of a birth is very, very rare. Then once he takes birth in such favorable situations, again he remembers based on his past impressions. He becomes attracted to the principles of yoga. He again starts the process of devotion. He continues. And like that, when he continues to make steady progress, life after life after life, because you don't need to start from zero, continue from where you left off, life after life. Eventually, after many lives, he purifies himself and comes to a situation where he perfects his consciousness. That's why Arjuna, become a yogi. There is never any loss in becoming a yogi. Yogi is better than karmi. Yogi is better than jnani. Yogi is better than tapasvi. Become yogi. Krishna's dialogue at the end of sixth chapter. And then Krishna concludes the sixth chapter by saying, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo matah. Of all types of yogis, who's the best? He who is my devotee, who worships me with transcendental faith, always offering his obeisances and rendering service to me. That person is the best yogi. So at the end of the sixth chapter, after going through all this karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, ultimately Krishna tells Arjuna, ultimately you must become my devotee. You must fix your consciousness on me without deviation. And in that way, he ends the sixth chapter. And we are already 45 minutes. I don't know whether you have time and patience. Hang on for 18 chapters. Let's see. So the next six chapters are actually the section of Bhakti Yoga. So in these six chapters, because Krishna already told Arjuna that you have to fix your mind on me without deviation. The conclusion of the six chapters is, Arjuna, you can live in this world and perform your duty, but always your consciousness must be fixed on me without deviation. But if you want to be fixed on in your consciousness without deviation, then you must develop a strong attachment to me. And if you want to develop attachment to me, you must understand about me, my glories. When you understand me truly, then you will be able to give your heart to me. You will be able to remember me. That will become possible. So this whole six chapters is focused on the topic of Bhakti Yoga, where the Lord is talking about, especially, actually more or less across, especially in 7th chapter, 9th chapter, 10th chapter, 11th chapter, about his glories in various ways. The essential message of this section is how one can understand Krishna's position as the transcendental Lord, understand about our relationship, how we can lead a life of remembering him, how even when we are in this world, we can actually understand Krishna is the active principle behind everything. And how in this world, even when we see the various powerful, opulent things in this world, how we can try to remember Krishna. So Krishna is giving Arjuna the way in which he can become Krishna conscious even while he is in this world. how to see Krishna everywhere, how to remember Krishna always. Because some of us may think, oh, Krishna is in his abode. Yes, Krishna is in his abode. Krishna has also said in this chapter, especially in the 9th chapter, he says this. I am in my abode, but I am also present everywhere. Everything is in me. So that is the kind of divine opulence that Krishna has. So Krishna starts this with the 7th chapter. Then he goes into the 7th chapter. Essentially, Krishna starts by giving an overview of his position by saying that there is the living entity, the spiritual energy, there is the material energy, the Maya. Both are coming from me. I am the source. So I am the Lord and Master. And that is why you must surrender to. Please understand, Arjuna, that the active principle of everything is me. Of course, these 5 elements, Pancha Mahabhuta and the 3 subtle elements, they are also, which are parts of material energy, are also coming from me. I am the one who's controlling and creating, maintaining, destroying this world. I am pervading everything. This entire material energy, which is composed of the 3 modes of nature, also I am controlling. And if those who want to become free from the delusion of the modes, they must surrender to me. If a jiva surrenders to me, they can easily transcend material energy. But you know, Arjuna, the sad thing is, rather than surrendering to me, there are 4 kinds of people who do not worship me. And there are 4 kinds of people who worship me. So all the 4 kinds of people, whether one approaches me with material desire, whether they approach me because they have problems, whether they approach me out of inquisitiveness or because they are in knowledge, I consider all 4 as wonderful people. Because they come to me, they are wonderful. The 4 kinds of people who are demoniac in their minds, they never approach me. But the best amongst the 4 is the jnani who knows about me properly and who works towards developing loving devotional service. They are the best. And Arjuna, some people worship the demigods. But let me tell you, Arjuna, that the demigods are my part and parcel. So worshipping the demigods is not, worshipping the devatas is not the same as worshipping me. In fact, those who are materialistic, they actually approach the demigods and worship. They may get some quick material results, but ultimately they do not understand that it is me only who is giving all these results to them. It is better if they approach me directly, because I am the ultimate well-wishing friend of all living entities. I'll give them exactly what will make them truly fortunate in life. And then there are others also who are even less intelligent than those who are worshipping the devatas. Who are they? They think that I am impersonal, that I have no form. Avyaktam vyaktimapannam manyante mam abuddhayah. So I don't reveal myself to people who unintelligently think that I am formless. So please understand, I am the source of everything and I have a spiritual form. I am the supreme person. The best way is to approach me with love and devotion. So from delusion caused by Maya, come to devotion. And then Krishna speaks further. He explains more about his glories. And in that way, he explains the basic knowledge of the Absolute in the 7th chapter. After hearing the basic framework of spiritual knowledge, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, and Krishna also explains a little bit about the Devatas and the impersonal Brahman. After understanding that, Arjuna has a few questions. He wants to clarify some terminology. So he asks Krishna some questions about, tell me, what is this Brahma you spoke about? You spoke about Adhyatma, Adibhuta, Adideva, Adi Yajna. And also tell me how a person can understand you at the time of death. So Krishna first, he goes and gives the definition of the various terms, and we do not have time to go into that. After that, Krishna comes to the main topic of this chapter, which is how one can achieve him at the time of death. Net, Krishna tells Arjuna very bluntly that whatever a person remembers at the time of death, that he will attain. That state he will attain. And that is why whoever remembers me, antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram, yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya. Who quits his body remembering me alone attains me without a doubt. But Arjuna, this does not happen by chance. Huh? It's not that all throughout your life you can be materialistic and you will say, oh, now I'm dying. Let me remember Krishna. Huh? No. You will remember at the time of death what you have been remembering throughout your life. You cannot cheat the system. So better you practice remembering me throughout your life by practicing the process of devotional sadhana. So in that way, Krishna explains to Arjuna various things. There are many things Krishna mentions in this chapter also. We don't have time to go into that. But Krishna tells one another thing. He also talks about the two paths of leaving the body. The path which returns back to the material world and the path which takes one to the spiritual world. Essentially, Krishna tells Arjuna that if you are a pure devotee, it doesn't matter whether you die this kind of time and place and circumstance or that kind. If you are perfected in your consciousness, in pure devotion, it is my responsibility to take you back to God. So you don't have to be worried. But other yogis have to be a bit careful about in what time, place, and circumstances they live there. And understand, Arjuna, once you attain me, Supreme, there's no coming back. Huh? After that, there is no longer birth, old age, disease, death. Yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamam paramam mama. Having attained where person never returns back. So the 8th chapter was kind of a slight deviation from the topic what was discussed in the 7th chapter, because there was a little bit of definitions and a little bit of elaboration of how at the time of death one goes back. Krishna continues describing about his qualities and how one can remember him always. The 9th chapter. Now the 9th chapter is very, very special. Raja Vidya, a king of knowledge. So Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters and 9 chapter is in the middle. So in this chapter, the highest of the highest knowledge. It is topmost knowledge. Krishna tells in the beginning, this is the most secret of all secrets. It is so secret, even though it is written very clearly, without my blessings and the blessings of my devotees, nobody can understand what is written. So it is an open secret, but nobody can decrypt it without the key of the blessings of Guru, Krishna and the Vaishnavas. So Krishna tells the key way to understand this knowledge is you have to be non-envious. And bhakti is about being non-envious. So I am going to describe to you the process of. So very beautifully, Krishna says that, describes the process of bhakti. Of course, he explains that without being non-envious and without having faith, says faithless people cannot attain him, cannot understand this. And then first Krishna in the 9th chapter explains about the Aishwarya Gyan, or how Krishna is related to this world, how this whole material energy is being managed by him. That in his energetic form also he is everywhere because his energies are working. But he is not in everything. He is creating everything, but he is not bound by anything. That Krishna is everything is ultimately being directed by him. And then Krishna tells us, when you see the problem is, even though I am the boss of all bosses, the ultimate, the shelter of everything, still Sometimes foolish people, when I come into this world, they think I'm an ordinary being. They become deluded. It's not so easy to understand my true personalities. But those who are truly Mahatmas, they are constantly worshipping me with devotion. महात्मनस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिता भजन्ति अनन्य मनसो ज्ञात्वा मां भूतादिम अव्ययम्. This chapter is full of so many beautiful verses. Then Krishna says there are some people, there are different kinds of jnanis who worship me in different ways. Some worship me in the Vishwarup form, some worship me in the Pratikopasana form, which is in the form of demigod worship. But all these people ultimately still have to come back to the material world. Unless one actually understands my real position as Krishna, as the transcendental Lord, one will not achieve the final stage. In this chapter, Krishna also glorifies bhakti. And he says, Arjuna, initially you were talking about, the Dhyan Yoga and other things, so difficult, this, that. But actually, bhakti for me is so simple. It's not so difficult to please me. Because I accept anything that is offered to me. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prach. Bhakti must be there. And bhakti costs nothing. Bhakti, as long as if you have your affection for me, even if you offer me a leaf, I will take. Simple water is also okay. Of course, I expect that it's not that you have a feast for yourself and just you give me a leaf or water. That's not a good idea. But the point is, if you also have nothing, you're not in a disadvantage to develop devotionally. That is the point. So develop devotion. Do everything as an offering to me. There is no constraint for bhakti. No matter what material situation is, one can always progress devotional service. And you know what, Arjuna? Even though I'm actually equal to all living entities, to my devotee, I give very special treatment. Because he is remembering me and depending on me, I take care of him. Even if my devotee sometimes commits a mistake, I am so kind to him that I will forgive him, I'll protect him, I'll make sure he doesn't fall down, I'll help him continue. So I am especially inclined to my devotees. Arjuna, even those who are from a very lowly, sinful background, if they take shelter of the process of bhakti, they can become so purified, who are already so exalted. So, what to speak of qualified, exalted people like you? Please do not take to any of the lower processes that were described earlier. Take to the process of devotional service. So, we have come to 9th chapter. Do you want to stop here? What should we do? It's almost, we have completed 9, we have completed roughly halfway.
Can we continue tomorrow, Prabhu, then the next 9 chapters?
Depends on popular opinion. I don't mind. We can, if we want to continue tomorrow, because I think if we rush too fast, then, will also not be. What I'll do is I'll put again a vote. So you can just, those who want can let me know. So there are two options. Either we do it tomorrow, or we can also do it the next Saturday. That's also possible. So I'll put all those options. Or if you're happy with, the thing is, it is not possible to do justice to 18 chapters in even a fleeting coverage of 18 chapters in 1 hour. It takes at least 1.5 to 2 hours. So, I don't want to go at such a speed that, we feel we didn't really cover anything much of substance. So what I'll do is, I'll take a pause now. So within the 9th chapter, I just want to mention one thing as we conclude, and then we can take any questions if there are any. There's a very beautiful verse, which is considered. So there are 18 chapters, right? Right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. Because Raj Vidya, the ninth chapter is itself in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. So in that way, it is very special. The exact middle verse is 9.14. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. So this is the central instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. What is the translation? Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Huh? So this is the definition of a Mahatma. Who's actually a great soul? Not just a politician or a wealthy person or a person who does tapasya or dhyan. Those who are continuously chanting the Lord's glories. So clearly, if somebody is asking where Krishna is saying, chant his name, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam, Satat. He's not even saying 16 rounds. We got concession for 16 rounds. The actual standard is Kirtaniya Sadahari. Of course, ultimately, one's life becomes a Kirtan because one's life becomes dedicated to the glorification of the Lord. That is the objective. Kirtan doesn't just mean chanting. Of course, that is an essential part of Kirtan. But even if one is actively engaged, yatantascha dhridavrata means continuously endeavoring to progress in spiritual life and render service to me with great determination. So many of you in the last month also endeavored so hard to organize Damodar programs, to get others to offer lamps. You did so much hard work. Some of you organized home programs, pandals. There's so much work. Dhridavrata, even when it is inconvenient, troublesome, consumes time, energy, money. Yatantascha dhridavrata. And namasyantascha ma. With devotion, they are offering obeisances, taking a humble position in front of me. Such persons are always connected to me. Nitya yukta. They are upasate. They are worshipping me like this. So this is the standard which Krishna recommends to Arjuna. Net, in the 9th chapter. Okay, so I'm just opening up the floor if there is any questions. Is this pace okay or is this too fast, too slow? Also, if you want, you can honestly tell me. There is no criticism in that. I have no problem. You wish to share because at the end of the day, we want to serve the devotees. Yeah. Yes, Suresh Prabhu, you want to say something?
Three questions. So, Patram, right, Prabhu? So, Patram should be only Tulsi or can be any sort of leaf?
In this context, Krishna is talking about any leaf. In this particular verse. Of course, amongst all the leaves, Tulsi is most dear to him.
No.
So we have essentially what Krishna is saying is, and Prabhupada also explains this. When we say Patra, Pushpa, Phalam, Toyam, essentially Krishna is saying offer me anything vegetarian. Because almost all vegetarian is either some form of leaf, flower, or fruit. Essentially, isn't it? And water. So essentially, he's not saying chickenam, muttonam, eggam. He's saying Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam. And the other way to look at it is, Krishna is telling the most easily available things. So if you have nothing, then you just offer even one tulsi leaf, or even if you don't have tulsi, any leaf. Krishna is interested in your devotion. Because ultimately, what is the point? The point is anyway, Krishna owns everything. So the point is not to impress Krishna. The point is to offer something with love. What is offered is not so important. What feeling it is offered is important. But if we have something which can be offered, which is of value, then we should offer it of value. This is also not an excuse just to give water to Krishna and say, you said water, patram pushpam param. Huh? Because actually, if we have devotion, we will offer the best to Krishna. Isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, if we eat a nice feast for ourselves and we give only water to Krishna, that means actually we don't have devotion for him. Would we treat somebody whom we really love like this? Take water for lunch. We are having our feast there. We'll be happy with the water. Do we trust, That means we actually don't have. So what Krishna is saying is, I am very easy to please. The main ingredient is devotion. You can offer anything as simple as just one leaf, some water, just one fruit, anything, any small thing. It doesn't matter. So that's the point.
Prabhu, the next question. Working in detachment or offering our fruits of activity to Lord, right? When whatever we're doing. So I
Yeah.
have some doubt in this actually. I just wanted to ask this thing.
Yeah.
Sarvam Krishnar Param Astu and Om Tat Sat. So what is the difference, Prabhu, actually, both?
It's the same thing ultimately. Ultimately, it's about dedicating. So there are different levels of dedication.
Okay.
There are three different levels of dedication. Ultimately, Om Tat Sat and is Sarvam Krishnarpanamastu. Ultimately, at the highest level. So Krishna across the Bhagavad Gita explains three kinds of levels of surrendering or offering. Okay. And we all have to progress like that. We cannot jump to the highest stage. I mean, we can try, but we will not reach there. Or even if we reach, we'll just barely touch for a few seconds and again we'll come down to our level. What are those levels? There is Sakama Karma, there is Nishkama Karma Yoga, and then there is Bhakti Yoga. So I'll explain to you in a very simple language. That means that in the early stage, yes, we want to do some devotion to Krishna, but I want to do devotion also, but I also want something for myself. Which means I will do devotion also if I get some returns. Sometimes it may be monetary, sometimes it may be even I'll get some name and fame, I want to do something for Krishna, but my name should be known. Whatever donation I've given, that must be put on the wall, plate. So I have to be recognized also. So there is some devotion, but it is sakam. There is a desire for some reward. Then in Nishkam, when one comes to the higher level of Nishkam Karma Yoga, one is willing to serve the Lord. One thinks, I don't need anything in return. I don't want anything in return because, it's my duty to serve the Lord. But in the stage of Nishkam Karma Yoga, one is still attached to what one wants to do for the Lord. I'm willing to serve, but I will. Don't ask me to wash pots for Krishna. Don't ask me to clean the temple. I can sit on the Vyasasan and give class that I enjoy, that I don't mind doing. At the most, I can stand at the counter and give out some prasad. I don't mind. I don't want anything in return. I don't need money for my service. I don't necessarily need any big glorification. But I will only do this other things I don't want to do. And when it comes to bhakti in its pure form, a devotee is neither wanting to get some returns, nor is he even attached to what he likes to do or what he doesn't like to do. He's only attached to thinking what will please Krishna.
Yeah.
So in the highest stage, one is only interested in pleasing Krishna. So it's like Hanuman. What should I do? You tell me. Whatever you tell me. You want me to bring mountain? Jump and bring mountain. Huh? You want me to, you will be happy if I put red kumkum all over my body. I will do that just because it makes you happy. Even though I may look like a clown. Doesn't matter. So that's at a very high level of consciousness. So
Prabhuji,
there may be devotion at all stages. But the point is, initially one is thinking about oneself more and less about Krishna. And as one advances more, one starts thinking more about Krishna and less about himself. And ultimately, one comes to the point of identifying himself as a Nishkinchana Bhakta. I don't want anything. I'm just your servant. I'm just existing for your pleasure exclusively.
So, Prabhuji, continuous remembrance is also through chanting. I mean, whatever work we are doing. But see, maybe I'm doing like Nishkama, so I don't want, I'm ready to do any sort of work for Lord. But same time, if I don't do my chanting properly, that remembrance is happening.
No, so chanting can also be done in Nishkam way, no?
Yeah, I'm telling if somebody is not chanting, but somebody is ready to do whatever work he wants to do for the Lord.
If one is not doing the sadhana of hearing and chanting
Yeah.
and association of devotees, one will not be able to actually be absorbed in serving the Lord with the right consciousness. It's not possible.
Good.
Then one will simply be doing work, but not being absorbed. Our idea is not simply to be doing work. There may be people who are all the time doing work in the temple, but they're not absorbed in Krishna. Maybe externally engaged. So unless you have developed a connection with Krishna through hearing, chanting, associating with devotees, developed a desire to attain him, you're not going to be able to remember him simply by being engaged in work. So we have to cultivate both serving Krishna and sadhana. Both are very, very important. In that way, throughout the day, one can remain absorbed in Krishna. Either one is doing direct sadhana or one is rendering service.
Yeah.
Both are important.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I'll hold my third question unless somebody wants to ask.
We can ask others and then we can come back to you.
Yeah.
Anybody else has any question, comment? Everybody is fully self-satisfied. So yeah, goes back to you.
Prabhuji, this is more of a general question, right?
Okay.
I just want to ask, I am drawn to multiple school of thoughts which tell the same concept. It's more or less the same like what you are teaching us, right? So is it natural for us, people like us, to follow different school of preachers? Ultimately, they tell the same thing. And at some point of time, are we going to get into one school of thought? Because now I follow 2 to 3 preachers, exactly what, and I don't see much of a difference. Maybe at my stage, I'm not able to differentiate those things. So,
No. So as long as you are following the same philosophical system,
yeah.
you're following the teachings of Lord Chaitanya as they are coming to Prabhupada and that, then even if there are multiple preachers, each preacher may have his own style of presenting the message.
I'm telling about other schools of thought, not Lord Chaitanya school.
Other schools of thought will only confuse us. So there are various darshanas. There are various ways of looking at truth. Some ways of looking at truth or perspectives of truth are more distant. Some are more close.
Yeah,
And some are more intimate. So we have understood that. Yeah. So we have understood that the highest darshan is Vedanta, and within Vedanta, the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva of Lord Chaitanya is the most comprehensive and most profound understanding of the Absolute.
Okay.
So the recommendation is, for the same subject, if you take different schools, you will only confuse yourself. So better to follow one school properly. When a person is more mature in knowledge and very fixed up in understanding, he can also study other schools and not be confused, because they are able to place everything in perspective. But that is not something we should do in our initial stages. After you have spent maybe 15-20 years in Krishna consciousness, very well established, very well read and studied and all that, then, with blessings of others, one may do for the purpose of comparative understanding or preaching, if needed, discuss other Vaishnava schools. Otherwise, it may confuse us. Oh, he's saying like this, he's saying like that. So we have to understand that there are different levels. It's not that one is wrong, one is correct fully. It's not about wrong and right. It's about how deep the understanding is.
So, Prabhuji, at my stage or our stage, if we are not getting confused, that means we do not have sufficient knowledge, right, Prabhu?
Yeah, so best is to not best is to stick to one school of philosophy and be absorbed in that. Simple. Otherwise, one will get, because even within the Bhagavad Gita, there are slightly varying understandings that different schools have, even within the Vaishnava schools.
Yeah.
So it is always best and safe for us, for our advancement, and so that our intelligence is fixed. The problem is not that we don't want you to read anybody else. That's not the problem. The problem is if our intelligence becomes bahushakha, is correct? This is correct. Then we will not be able to follow our path properly with determination. Then we will be on the losing end. That is the problem.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Bahushakha hyanantasya buddhayo avyavasayina. We don't want a avyavasayi buddhi. We want a vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kural. Right?
It is clear, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah, Puja Mataji, Hare Krishna. Yeah, where are you? Which temple? Nice.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Hari Bol.
I am in Noida ISKCON temple.
Oh, wonderful. I am seeing the background, beautiful paintings, and I'm seeing the ceiling. So nice. And nice to see you with a wonderful tilak.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Also. Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I just want to understand a basic question. Like, there's too much commercialization.
Can you put the mic closer to your mouth? I can't hear you very well. Yeah, maybe your finger is covering the mic opening. Just be careful. Yeah. Can you repeat the question, please? Yeah.
Commercialization good because some people say in Hyderabad there is not much commercialization, but here in northern India too much commercialization by ISKCON. So so how we can convince others?
Now explain to me what is the meaning of explain with some concrete example, then I can comment.
Anything, anything.
No. See, when if all of us are sitting in a forest and doing simply harikatha and just going to the river, drink water, pluck fruits from trees, and have prasad by offering, then we don't need money. But whenever there is an institution, a facility, organization, then resources, manpower, Lakshmi in various ways, energy, talent, all these become necessary part. So for us, what is the meaning of renunciation? Krishna has already made it clear. Renunciation means using everything in Krishna's service. So what is the meaning of commercialization? When if we are using and earning money to increase our own comfort, then that is not very good. But when we are doing what looks like commercial activity, but the whole purpose of that commercial activity, whether it is selling prasad, whether it is having nice restaurants, whether it is distributing books, having nice accommodation facilities where there is a cost, as long as all the profit that is coming there is ultimately being used in Krishna's service, then it is Krishna's money being used for Krishna's service, where is there any selfish desire? Because without money, without facility, nobody will come. Why so many people are coming to these beautiful temples? Why there is a crowd? We have to do all this to attract people to come, because when there's a beautiful temple, there's a nice restaurant, there's a nice bookshop, people will come. If you will tell them, come to the forest, come to this corner, I am sitting down with Bhagavad Gita, let us discuss, nobody is going to be interested. So the nature of this material world is people are excited by opulence. So opulent display of the Lord and his worship and the associated facilities to do that is in service of Krishna. So and that has been our culture since thousands of years, right? See Tirupati Balaji temple, you see all the grand temples, so much opulence. the concern is not opulence. The concern is that the persons who are engaged in the execution and the management of that opulence, are they using it all in Krishna's service properly, or are they using it for themselves? That is the question we should be interested. Everything belongs to Krishna. Yeah, so some people say, oh, why Krishna? One boy asked Gaurang Prabhu was telling. One person asked Gaurang, oh, why Krishna has so many girlfriends? So Gaurang Prabhu told that person, your real problem is not that why Krishna has so many. Your real problem is that you don't have any. So the real thing is actually Krishna owns everything. We are simply envious. So sometimes people make these kind of comments because they just become envious by seeing the opulence of the temple, of the facilities there. But the whole idea Prabhupada created this kind of a system and structure was to attract people. He wanted in big cities especially to have an attractive, opulent place where thousands of people will come. So the whole point is people may initially come to look at a beautiful building, beautiful worship, eat in Govindas, and listen to nice kirtan. But because Krishna is all purifying, and because any contact with Krishna, his prasad, his devotees, the transcendental literatures like Gita and Bhagavatam is purifying, eventually one becomes attracted to Krishna through such contact, especially repeated contact. So our ultimate purpose is still for Krishna. We are not doing all this to... The devotees are still, the brahmacharis are still sleeping on the floor on a mat. When I was in the ashram, everybody just sleeps on the mat on the floor, not even with a pillow. So there's so much opulence in the temple. What does that mean for the servants in the temple? For them, it doesn't mean. So we are of the approach of Yukta Vairagya. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati would talk about it. But Yukta Vairagya means use everything in Krishna's service. You understand? Okay. So, yeah. So, whatever we use in Krishna's service is less. So, those who are so worried why Krishna is being offered so many things, the question is for them is why you are not offering to Krishna, why you are keeping for yourself what you have. That should be the question we should be asking. Does it answer your question? Huh? Yes. So I can see so many people behind. Has everybody come because they are irresistibly attracted to Krishna? Many of them have come to have the experience of a beautiful temple setting. And that's nice. I'm not criticizing them in any way. Initially, there may not be a direct spiritual attraction. There may be an attraction to a beautiful religious setting. And that's fine. Gradually, people come to a higher and higher and higher stage, from Sakam Bhakti to Nishkam to Pure Bhakti. Okay? So you must teach them how to come to Pure Bhakti. Thank you very much. Have a good time. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so I'll put a poll. You let me know. So there are a couple of options, 3 options essentially. One is, it's okay, Gita Jayanti is done, 9 chapters, Prabhuji you did, next 9 you do next year. So that's one option. The other option is, tomorrow do 9 chapters. The third option is next Saturday do 9 chapters, and then after that we resume. So these are the broad 3 options. So don't hesitate. There is no right or wrong answer in this case. I'm not going to judge anybody. So don't have to see, oh, whatever the majority is saying, I have to say that only. It's not like that. This is not about judging you. It's just about your availability, your time, your schedule, and your preference. So do not hesitate. Do not worry. I'm not going to be judgmental about your response. Mantra Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai Shri Prabhupada. So we are very fortunate. We have discussed at least 9 chapters today on this very auspicious day. Today is a very, very special day. So let us pray to Lord Krishna that first of all, let us thank Krishna, Arjuna, and the Acharyas for making this knowledge available to us. Our unlimited gratitude at their lotus feet. And we pray to them that gradually this knowledge will enter our heart, illumine our heart with the right understanding, and it will be internalized, because hearing and intellectual understanding is one thing, but it will become part of our nature, and that we can become what Gita is asking us to become. That is our ultimate desire. So with this prayer, very much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna
Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Prabhu. Hare